It's not as simple as it seems when looking at the newest Childe's banner, and this is the best time to investigate the whole situation. Let's start with something that has the highest likelihood to show up if you ever wish on a featured banner, which are the 4-star characters. Now, probably the most interesting one here is Ningguang, just because MiHoYo recently announced the 2 newest characters, both of which are going to be from the Geo element, and that means more synergy for the Liyue businesswoman, well, at least hopefully, because her playstyle more or less demands her to pull off a strong setup that you usually want to power up with various things like Bennett's Burst, Albedo's Flower, or Zhongli's Shield, so if there's any chance that either Gorou or Arataki will have some sort of a support capability, then that would mean more synergy for Ningguang or vice versa. And the thing about Geo is that whether you like it or not, Zhongli has been the cornerstone of any powerful team you want to build with this element as its main focus ever since he got buffed in 1.3 update, so running Ningguang without him is not the worst thing, but the benefits this Archon offers are far too great to be ignored, so hopefully if these 2 new guys show up, one of them or even both can be alternatives for Geo Resonance bonus. Obviously, there's also Albedo who works pretty well with her, but he's been hiding away in Dragonspine Mountains since 1.2 update. So why does this all matter? Well, this is still Childe's banner, and if we care about all the information that's out there, knowing that plenty of new Geo characters are probably coming out in 2.3 update, since at least that's how things have been with MiHoYo's marketing and release schedule, and this can give us a better idea if it's worth to put in a couple of wishes into the featured banner if you care about the new Geo compositions, and you either don't have Ningguang unlocked or want to get some constellations on her, but you'd also be dabbling in speculations since we have no idea what these 2 new Geo characters will be capable of, and they could instead end up as dedicated damage dealers, which could still kind of work with Ningguang, as she could go for a quick swap damage dealer role. Also, let's not forget that unlike a featured 5-star character, there is no pity or guarantee you can get one of the featured 4 stars, and there have been plenty of horror stories out there where players spend upwards of 150 wishes and still not get the featured 4-star even once. So consider everything said here as more or less just a potential outcome when 2.3 update arrives, and hopefully you at least manage to grab her from the last month's Paimon's Bargains shop. And as for the other 2 featured 4 stars, if the only thing you care about is the current meta, then Chongyun still sees quite a lot of action in the national team, but due to different variations popping off like Raiden Shogun, Kazuha, or Sucrose replacing him, there's been a decline for his usage in the Spiral Abyss. But should you care about his usage rate? Not really, since his damage output still remains impressive thanks to his amazing low-cost, high-damage burst, but constellations-wise, only the 3rd and last one really matter to beef up his burst's damage. Now, on the other hand, when we look at Yanfei, her first constellation is kind of similar to the one Hu Tao has, and if you don't have a C1 Yanfei, there will be some stamina issues that she could mitigate by adjusting her damage rotation, but that first constellation is really nice and helps reduce the amount of stamina she uses with her charge attacks. And let's not forget, if you've been playing when Dodoko Tales was available, this is a pretty decent free-to-play weapon you can use on her if you haven't got any other catalysts leveled up. But that's pretty much it. All of these characters have their own quirks, and while overall the banner itself isn't extremely impressive, there is a bit of interesting variety it offers. Look, it's no secret that there's basically zero synergy between Childe and these featured 4-star characters. Chongyun's elemental skill doesn't work with Childe's Hydro Blades, you cannot cause offensive elemental reactions with Ningguang, and even if you could with someone like Yanfei, there's still the whole problem with actually pulling off a decent Hydro application when using her charge attacks. Now, obviously, this needs to be repeated over and over again, but if you don't care about pulling off synergetic attacks which can benefit you with better damage output, and one-way ticket to clear Spiral Abyss with 36 stars, and all you really care about is just playing with whom you like, then this isn't going to be an issue for you. But it's mind-boggling why MiHoYo wouldn't put at least one character that has great synergy with our sweet Childe. Anyone like Beidou, Fischl, Sucrose, Xiangling, and even Benny Boy, who, let's be honest, works with basically everyone, would have made the banner more tempting to wish on. And it also doesn't help that this is his 2nd rerun, which has been criticized by the community for this decision MiHoYo has made, but to make it so that even the featured 4 stars have no synergy with him, well, that's just weird to say the least. But maybe there is a silver lining of this whole banner design, and perhaps the developers looked at the usage statistics and decided that those who are already happy with Childe would get discouraged for pulling on a banner that also contains 4 stars they already use with him. So instead, put in someone that you would have to build different teams with if you wanted to achieve synergy, which would mean that every single one of these characters, including Childe himself, have no relevant synergy between each other whatsoever, ever, and instead your only choice is building a new separate team with them. And the funny thing is, this exact pool of characters was already present on Ayaka's banner, which didn't even happen that long ago, so it's insane to see all of these 3 characters making a return on a rerun banner, because at least in Ayaka's case, the sales were made all thanks to the hype that's been building around her since the closed beta days. Honestly, this sounds like an extremely questionable decision to say the least, or MiHoYo is just simply experimenting to see how will the banner perform if they put these specific characters on it. You have to understand the insane amount of revenue that Genshin generates, which has been already reported to be around $2 billion just from the mobile purchases alone, and all of this money primarily comes from the banner sales, so the people making these decisions base their choices around some kind of analytics data they have acquired from all the players' spendings, and at this point, it actually feels like this is an experimental banner where they are trying to acquire more data from their customers. But enough of this boring money talk, and let's move on to the next part. You know, there's always going to be something new coming out, even if it's not a character, and this time around, 2.2 will start out with a new limited 5-star and 4-star weapon. First of all, it's nice to see MiHoYo is finally showing the materials you're going to need for ascending the new weapons, although with the way their marketing works, it is a bit of a short notice, especially for free-to-play players who don't refresh the resin. Still, what matters here right now is the new Claymore, and it actually looks pretty amazing. The primary and secondary stats are well-rounded, but the biggest selling point has to be the passive. If you read it carefully, you will see that you don't actually need to have the energy points active on your teammates. It's only the maximum energy that gets checked for the bonus elemental burst damage. So if you run a team of 4 characters and they each have 80 energy bursts, the bonus will be 38.4 extra increased burst damage at first refinement. Now you probably already noticed that even if it says the maximum amount you can get is 40%, realistically speaking, there is no way to achieve this unless future characters come out with higher burst costs. And furthermore, you also have to understand that not every team will have characters with expensive burst costs, so you should probably expect to see a smaller bonus. But the good news are, this weapon is kind of future-proofed, especially for some of the niche team comps, although it does feel like a slap on the face when looking again at Beidou and Raiden duo that could have happened, since it almost feels like it was made for the pirate captain. Still, it does work very nicely on her as an alternative, especially considering her best option is locked behind a paywall through the battle pass. Speaking of paywalls, Polar Star looks like something that's going to be the Staff of Homa 2.0, meaning the weapon is absolutely value-packed. Not only does it offer a whopping 33.1% critical rate, which is 11% more than the Skyward Harp, but it also gives an insane passive that increases basically all of the wielder's damage, starting with an elemental skill and burst, and ending with a nice stack building mechanic that relies on your character doing different attacks within a short amount of time. So if you love the technical side of Childe's playstyle, his rotation checks off basically all of these requirements, and most likely will become his best weapon in slot. Now, you could argue that not all bow characters will benefit from the attack buffing stack, since it requires them to go out of their way to build the whole stack. For example, Yoimiya would need to do a charged attack, which isn't something you would do normally, but let's be honest here. Attack percent increase can be supplemented from so many different sources, and even if you miss out on a couple of stacks, you've still got that awesome critical rate substat and elemental burst and skill damage boost. Either way, a weapons banner is never going to be a free-to-play friendly when it comes to 5 stars, and while the weapons on it are great, especially Favonia's sword and polearm, which quite a few characters can benefit from, you shouldn't really bother summoning on this banner for 5-star weapons specifically, even if MiHoYo have implemented the pity counter, since it's still pretty much a bait for the whale players only. One thing to keep in mind, as 2.2 is basically around the corner, would be the free Aloy that's going to be showing up in everyone's mailboxes. So if you have that itch to get some new characters or weapons, she may be able to help you out with this problem, since looking at the future, we've got so many exciting characters coming out, and the struggle of saving up Primo Gems will always be the bane of our existence when playing this game. But if you enjoyed this video, you can always help out the channel by subscribing to it and pressing the like button. But if you want even more Genshin content, then be sure to follow me on Twitter, link in the description. Thanks for watching the video, and see you soon.